we take for granted the exceptional power and empowerment that we provide our clients. And I think we take it for granted because we're in it all the time. And I think that people generally get desensitized to doing great things, right? The good thing which is why I always like intake, because it always reminds me of the people who are starting and their pain points and how much they want their solution to come.
Hey, law firm owner, welcome to the Your Practice Mastered podcast. We're your hosts. I'm MPS.
And I'm Richard James. And MPS, today we have the pleasure of interviewing a member from our world who's relatively new to our world, but we've seen him act, let's say, differently. Like, he's not like the normal law firm owner that walks in through our doors and takes a while to get warmed up. Yandy jumped in with both feet, and we can see the trajectory that he's on, and we can tell that he's a bit of a different cat in a very good way, in that he definitely understands that he owns a law firm. So Yandy, thanks for being here today. Appreciate you being on the show. Can't wait to dive into the conversation, but we're honored that you gave us your time today.
I mean, thank you for the invite. I definitely appreciate that maybe my story can touch somebody and help somebody work through whatever darkness that they have, right? And it's like, we all know, right? During the good times, it's very easy times, right? It's through the dark that we learn so much. It's through the dark that you start to notice who you really are. And all of us, all law firm owners, any lawyers, especially soloists, it's rough. And we all know it's rough. And we're all smart, right? That's the hardest part. The biggest weakness of lawyers is we're smart. We're too smart for our own good a lot of times. So it gets to a point where we have to be weak. We have to acknowledge our weaknesses so that we can empower those and delegate those things out that are dragging us down. And I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here.
He's already dropping wisdom. I like it. This is going to be a good episode. Yandy, to give the audience an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better, what's maybe something that not everyone knows about you?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm an avid snowboarder. I had the last 2 years, I haven't been able to snowboard because I got a little nugget. His name is Milo. He's a dream come true. I can't tell you enough. He's a little 2-year-old. And the last 2 years, I haven't been able to go snowboarding. But I'm telling you right now, I feel a little colder here in New York, and it's starting to give me an itch. Like, I just feel it. I literally got a brand new Tesla, and I bought the top rack because I'm going to put the snowboard up there. And I can't wait. I can't wait to get on the mountains. I've done snowboarding in Colorado, Utah. I'm looking forward to snowboarding in Japan soon. So, it's going to be interesting. And I'm going to get that little nugget on the board, too, so that he can carve with me.
I was just going to say 2 years old sounds like the perfect age to start Milo on a snowboard. Now, to be clear, I always assumed that snowboarders were the guys who were always laying on the ground. See, I'm a skier, right? So I don't know how to snowboard. And so all I ever saw was, especially snowboarders who didn't know what they were doing, always seemed to be sitting down on the mountain. I couldn't understand it. And while I was skiing around, and of course they were always in my way. And so I had a love-hate relationship with snowboarders when I was on the mountain, especially in the 80s and the 90s when snowboarding was just starting to get in vogue. But I would tell you that I wouldn't know what to do on a snowboard. MPS, I think you had a snowboard experience yourself. And if I'm not mistaken, it was in the pursuit of love.
It was in the pursuit of love. I didn't know how to snowboard, and yet I thought it would be a good idea to try to show the woman I was pursuing that I could snowboard, and I didn't know how. And so we go up on a blue, and what goes up must come down. And I came down in a body bag on the back of one of those snow patrols. That was my foray into snowboarding, and I really haven't been back since. That was kind of the it for me. And then skiing, people always said, "Yeah, make a pizza; it slows you down." No, it speeds you up. I don't think that's the case.
I'm hoping that it worked out with the chick.
It did. I married her.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, so I guess you didn't get to impress her that day, but you did something else.
Exactly. It came back around for me, so it worked.
So the same thing happened to me when I first started, and that was like more than a decade ago, probably 15 years ago. and it was horrendous. We went up there. I did not give it the respect that it was due, right? I went up with family, and we were young guys. We were teenagers. And the reality was that us being Dominican males and thinking, bravo, yeah, we got on a mountain. And then we were going down these hills, going up the sleeves, and we were literally missiles. There was no way of controlling it. There was no way of knowing what to do. It was rough. I remember thinking, I have no control. I'm going too fast. There is no way that this makes any sense. And at that specific time, I failed. Because I won't say I quit, because I remember thinking always, I need to go back. That's one off that I'm going to have to get right. So then after probably 6 years after that incident, I got into law school, and I got a law school buddy of mine who's like, they were talking about snowboarding. They were talking so much about it. And I was like, yeah, you know something, I would like to go with you guys. But now the only condition is you got to teach me how to go left and how to go right and how to slow down. I don't need nothing else. If you teach me that, I'll figure out the rest. And it's crazy because it's so counterintuitive, right? You get on the board and there is no intuition in regards to moving. I've mastered martial arts. I mean, I'm a black belt in this and that, and I've done a lot, years of it. And I thought, and I did a roller skating, rollerblading. So I was on it, right? I thought that I could get it. Once I got on that board and it beat me up. But then when I got back on it, I was on a different mission. I was like, I'm gonna get this right, because I just saw, when I envisioned the people carving, going up and right, they just look too cool, right? I don't say anything about skiing, but I think snowboarding looks much cooler. So then I basically said, I was like, I'm gonna get this, and then I got it. Now I carve, and it's so liberating. I put some music in one of my ears, and oh my God, everything goes away. Like, it all withers away. Like that in the gym, it's just the serenity, right? Like us lawyers, we get this everything in our head, right? It's just zzz, like this compressed feeling, right? So the point that when you can find an outlet that is also beneficial insofar as health, it's a win.
It's interesting parallel, and I think a great bridge over to the next conversation, which is not very intuitive. So I think a lot about business is not intuitive. Matter of fact, it's somewhat counterintuitive to the way you run the rest of the world runs, right? You move in a different direction than everybody else.
Yeah.
And so MPS, I figured that'd be a good bridge over to some of the business conversation we're going to have today.
Yeah, I'd love to just learn, Yandy, some of the high strokes of your entrepreneurial journey as a law firm owner.
This is the fascinating thing. When I was a young kid, I wanted to be a lawyer, right? Oh, everybody, you hear this 100 times. I just wanted to be a lawyer. People tell me, oh, you're going to be a great lawyer. You could tell you're argumentative, all this stuff, right? So then after a while, I just started to notice that, yeah, that fits my mold, right? And it's interesting because my entire life, even past almost to the end of law school, was focused on being a great lawyer, focusing on knowing what to do here, the rules, the laws, and all that stuff. And the reason why I bring this up is because there is zero sense of business as you continue along, right? I was so focused, and it's crazy because there was one particular moment, probably like in high school or college, that I was like, should I learn some business? Should I do this? I was like, how hard could it be? If I know how to be a lawyer, I'm going to be able to sell things, and I'm going to be able to get clients. I had no idea that this was a huge mechanism. It's a factory with people and product and intake and administration. It's a big thing. So the thing that happened is my journey involved knowing everything, being an exceptional. I mean, I was in honors and everything. I crushed it, right? I'm that kind of guy that if I go head in, I'm going to do my best. That's just how it is. But so I excelled in honors and all that stuff. But then I went into government work. And so basically I said, should I go into a judicial clerkship? I wanted to do it kind of, and then I was like, maybe not. Then I did. I got offered positions in private, right? I didn't want to sell my soul for the dollar. I was kind of like, I knew that this was going to be a soul draining work, right? Then I said to myself, what do I really want? And I said, I really want to be able to know how to get judicial relief and create legal leverage through the products that I create in order to be able to have the clients experience a journey that they feel empowered, right? And it was one of these things that I then said, I learned in school, I didn't want to do family law, which was what I initially thought I wanted. And then as I noticed, it was just kind of bargaining, chipping, and it's like people hating each other and vindictiveness. And I was like, I can't help people like this. I thought I could. Instead, I then learned estates, elder law, a wills and trusts and administrations, probates. And then I said to myself, wow, this is a good area. This is me helping people. Someone passes away or is planning for this. and is reaching down into the family and saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. This is something that I left behind. I worked my entire life for this. Take care of it. So then I said to myself, wow, if I can facilitate that transaction and give those people the good news of, hey, we got the court order or we got this or that, I said, that's going to be fascinating. It's going to be great. So then when I went into government work, I went into defending the NYPD because my brothers are police officers. And I said to myself, I want to know about the executive branch. I want to know what cops can and cannot do, right? The reality is, if you don't know, then you can't protect yourself from them, right? So then I started to learn that, and I did that for 3 years. I learned a good amount of a pre-litigation. I learned a good amount of litigation and trial. So I knew after government work that if I had a person who had a problem, right, I knew that I was going to get paid in direct proportion to the problems that I'm solving, depending on the complexity of the problem. So I then said to myself, I need to know in government, I need to know how to get judicial relief and court orders. So through in this whole time, all I'm thinking about is how to be a lawyer, how to be that technician. And then I opened up shop, right? And I did it during COVID. Like I'm telling you right now, looking back, I'm a kind of person like, yo, if I put my head in it, that's it. Because during COVID, government workers were sitting down, working on one case a day, literally like it was free money. My colleagues were telling me that I was crazy to think about leaving, especially when it was such a cushy job. And I was like, no, man, this is not for me. I didn't come in here to do cushy pay government thing. I want to crush this. I want to see how far I can go. I want to see how far I can create. So during college, my journey started with certain specific skills that I learned, which is high ticket closing. So I started to learn. I was like, you know something, let me learn, because you need to be comfortable talking about money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. As soon as you talk to somebody and you give that little stutter or something whenever you're talking about money, the deal's done. You're lost. Right? If you're negotiating with somebody, your client, your person, your adversary, whatever. So that was my first introduction into business. And then as I then continued and I actually opened up shop, at that point was when I noticed the lack of knowledge that I had. I was confronted with the understanding that if I did it alone, I would not go far. I wouldn't be unable to scale and to be effective as I wanted to be, right? Because we all know, right? You see some lawyers, they do very well. You see other lawyers, they're struggling. And it's like, I noticed, I was like, well, there's more to this than just being a great lawyer. And smarts doesn't equal more zeros in the bank account. So then I just said, okay, let's get into this business grind. And then this is where I am now.
By the way, what a great story. And I think almost every lawyer listening to this can probably relate. Not every, but almost every lawyer we've ever met started with, I want to be a great lawyer. And they would all admit that while they increased their lawyer acumen over the years, they did not invest very much money, time, or effort into increasing their business acumen, right? And then they go open their own shop and realize, oh my gosh, there's all this other stuff you have to learn. And so I just want to speak into you about the fact that, congratulations to you for being able to recognize that there was more to the story, and that you not only chose your practice area that matched your passion, but you also then realized, okay, I need to start going down the path of understanding how to build a business. And I'm curious, as you've been at this a few years now, since you've opened up your own practice, what has been some of the more challenging moments that you've run into?
So the beginning is rough, especially because instead of sticking with personal injury and defending people who were abused or taken advantage of by police officers, I shifted entirely. It was rough not knowing certain things, and it's especially hard when you are entrusted to take care of millions of dollars for somebody and you've never done something before. It's really hard. It's a level of pressure. And I remember those moments where I was like waking up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, did I file this? Did I do this? Did I do that? Right. And then I just noticed, I was like, I started to gain more confidence in myself. I've always excelled, right? And I've always done well, and knock on wood. But yet I remember just kind of noticing, I was like, man, and I'm a smart guy. I can figure things out. I can solve anything that I put my mind to. I can do it. So the rough patches always came when I encountered specific challenges that were relatively new and I didn't have experience in. But the thing that I then noticed is I'm always really good at breaking things down, right? Like you eat an elephant one bite at a time. You don't go and just try to swallow the whole thing. And I think that's what makes our law firm very unique because we understand how monolithic these tasks are in New York whenever people don't have any idea what to do next or they have specific complexities in their family situation. And it's like, hey, just get these 2 documents first. And then we're going to get on a call in a week. And then I'm going to, oh, look at these videos, look at this PDF. And then you just nurture somebody to help them understand what's happening generally while simultaneously helping them what's happening on the micro level. And then the thing that happens is I've had less and less hard times now. Like things have become a little easier, not easy, but easier.
I think that is an excellent way to put it. And what I'm also curious to hear, Yandy, from you is like, was there a particular turning point for you in the last few years with your firm where you like really started to see an up level in just the growth of the firm? And like, what was that? What happened?
One thing that I believe has created an exponential growth, or maybe not yet exponential necessarily, but it's there. One thing that I've seen happen is in the beginning, I think that there is a sense of imposter syndrome that happens with any technician that starts an endeavor. And I think that once I started to do it more and more and more, I think I just had a certain swag and confidence to myself when I started to explain things to people and I tried to have certain levels of patience. And one thing that I think it has given me the best return on the investment is me taking a little bit of time to get people to give us Google reviews. I can't tell you enough. Like our Google reviews are fantastic. Our Avo reviews are fantastic. And it's one of those things like these are real people who start a journey with us on day one and then sometimes take 2 years in matters that have to get done. And then there's an art to asking for the Google review. So boom, I got the powers. I got the big reveal happens. And then at that point there, everyone's just so happy, right? And I'm just like, look, I want you to remember, like, I told you I was going to do this for you. And I told you to remember this moment whenever it came, right? And I gave you certain promises. Did I meet all my promises? Yeah, oh man, you crushed it. You did so great. Oh, thank you so much. You're changing our lives, blah, all this stuff. And then I'm going to ask you a favor. And I don't want your money. All I want you to do is click on the email I'm going to send you right now. Look, do you have the email? Yeah, I got the email. Look, all you have to do is click on that link and help that next person who was as lost as you when you came to me. I remember, and I'll try to remember something that they told me a while back. And I'm like, you remember when you told me that this was happening or that was happening and you were so worried and I told you were going to be just fine? And then boom, get the Google review. I have some Google reviews there that people call me now and they're like, oh, I read your reviews. You're the best. You're this and that. And that was probably the best trajectory, I think, that has created the best ROI.
So I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, Yandy, but I will tell you, I want to unpack the brilliance of it. So you did 2 things. Well, actually, you did 3 things that I wish I could get every law firm owner to do and to subsequently train their teams to do. So the first thing that you did was you identified the happy moment, right? So when is your client at their happiest? For each practice area or for each matter type, that may be a little bit different, but typically there is a happiest moment. Even in family law, when there's usually not a winner, there's still a happiest moment somewhere along the line. The second thing that you did is you control the narrative. So you didn't say, oh, if I send you a link, will you send me a review? You did it while they were on the phone and you maintain control of the narrative. And then the third thing that you did that you maybe didn't recognize you were doing was by reminding them of what they went through, you supplanted into their brain a thought process of, oh, maybe the review should say something like, my life was deep and dark because of this situation, or I was in the dark, and, Yandy pointed me in this direction, and now we got this result, right? And so that is the formula for a great review. What was your life like before? what was it like to work with that service professional, and what is your life like now? That is the absolute formula for a great review.
Yeah.
So in this simple little system that you described, you have just given everybody listening who's wondering, boy, how can I get more reviews? You just gave them a formula of exactly how to do that. And it's something that every law firm owner listening can do.
Yeah.
And as you said, when you put good quality, good human-like reviews, they're not fake, they're not manufactured, they're just true people you helped that tell their story in a review. And then hopefully, I don't know if you're doing this, if you then respond to that review and then they see that you're interacting with them, boy, oh boy, does that light your business on fire, right?
I'll give you two more. One thing that you want to make sure you do is you want to get them to do a micro commitment. So two things. So the first is make sure that they do a micro commitment and promise when they're going to do it. And then the second thing is when they say something spectacular about you, right? Like there's sometimes you're not ready to do the review just yet. The happiest moment hasn't come, right? So I'll start with the second one. So if someone tells me like that something happened and they're very happy at this moment, but we're not going to ask the review yet. We want to build it up. We want to really get the nuggets in. They'll tell you something like, wow, you did this so good and all this stuff. Or let's say you're in a court conference. And if you're in that court conference and then they see you do something great and they just so appreciative, I tell them, hey, look, we're still not there yet. But remember this feeling. Remember what you're doing now. You know how happy you are now? You need to help me communicate that to the world when I tell you, right? And you just kind of prime them. And then, come on, like who doesn't want to give a great review to somebody who's giving you an exceptional service, right? That's the reality. It's not a big ask. It's just more of a, hey, get it done. So that's one thing. So I set them up. And then when I ask, it's no longer a big ask. It's very simple. It's very easy. They want to do it. And then I get the micro commitment. So if at that point when I'm just like delivering the news and everything's happening, I'll say, hey, did you receive the email? Yeah, I got it. Okay, look, I'm going to tell you something. You know how I've been this entire time, right? I've been very straight with you. And the reality is I'm expecting you to get this done within a reasonable time. When can you do this for? And then they'll tell you, oh, I can't do it right now, but I'm never going to do it this weekend. Oh, you know something? I'm going to look out for it on Monday. So you kept me on my toes during this whole time when you wanted me to get done your things expeditiously and all that stuff. So I'm expecting the same now, right? And if you scratch our back, we're going to scratch your back. And I got your back for the rest of your life as a lawyer. And then you do those little things. And this is something else. It may take a little side note, but it's relevant. We take for granted the exceptional power and empowerment that we provide our clients. And I think we take it for granted because we're in it all the time. And I think that people generally get desensitized to doing great things, right? Which is why I always intake, because it always reminds me of the people who are starting and their pain points and how much they want their solution to come. So it gets to a point that I always try to bring myself to that. And I say, hey, we did great, but now look, we're going to do great, and setting that up. And lawyers should think about that, and we should be very proud. It takes a lot to be a lawyer. It takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of work and a lot of grind. And we have to be proud of ourselves and remind ourselves, hey, why was it that we were doing this? Right? Now you're delivering this exceptional service to somebody. I'm too cocky sometimes, but I got a confidence, and they like it too, right? They want someone who's like a shark on the other side and who's pushing for them. I always look back and I'm like, look, I'm able to serve people very effectively and get certain results. And we have to remind ourselves of that. And that's why the Google reviews and the Avvo reviews, they just give validation to that. They show you, hey, look, these people care about us, and all we have to do is do the ask.
MPS, do you remember in the off-camera conversation when we were having with Yandy about when he told us about that timer that he set on his watch?
Yes, I do.
Yandy, why don't you tell us about that?
So I'm going to tell you, sometimes we get so into this rat race, and especially in New York. I'm going to tell you, like I've been all around the country and I've been in other international places. New York has a microcosm like pressure that the rest of the world doesn't have. Maybe Las Vegas, but there's just this high speed tempo, do. Everything is supposed to be done yesterday, right? People ruminate over the weekend. They call me on Monday. They wanted something done on Thursday. And they're like, well, you just spoke to me today. Like, I don't understand how you want me to travel back in time. But I'm definitely ready to help you now. But the thing that happens is I have a timer. It's at 3:21 p.m. every single day. And the alarm just goes off. It just gives me a little vibration, not too interrupting. It's just brr, brr, brr. And you know what I do every single day? No matter what it is I'm doing, I just stop for 5 seconds, take a breather, and say, I'm appreciative of being exactly where the world told me to be and how I followed my soul to be exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I show myself gratitude. I think too many times we're not grateful. And I think that with gratitude comes so much more, right? Like it comes overabundance and it comes from all these other good things. It's a good thing to allow yourself to be appreciative.
I agree. I think that's extremely powerful and a good reminder to slow down for a second and remember what you've got in front of you. Yandy, this has been super awesome, but what's got you fired up and excited today? Could be business, could be personal, could be both.
I guess the one thing that got me excited really out of everything is that we got an executive assistant on. It's hard. Let me tell you, like we're replacing this one, but it's already creating the systems and the processes with this one so that the next one that's coming on, she's going to have a good amount of experience there sourcing her now. But the thing that happens is I've noticed that this executive assistant is that gel. I always try to equate, a watch has a lot of little pieces. And in every piece, you have a little cog. And if one cog is messed up, now you can't move the watch. I'm excited once I have the executive assistant providing me the data that I want and that I need. I'm excited because I believe that I'll be able to do my best work that way. I was so much a technician. Now I'm being the business person and the technician. And it's very, very interesting because I can now leverage the team in order to help more people. And that to me is awesome. I get excited about that. We all want the same thing, right? We all want to be able to help the most amount of people with the least amount of effort and time, work very effectively with a well-trained machine and a team. I read recently, what book was it? I don't even remember exactly, but they say that in work, it matters more the quality of the time that you spend. And then with family, friends, loved ones, it matters about the quantity of the time that you spend. Generally speaking, right? And I told my partner this, and she's like, oh, but she's always saying, oh, but quality time with family is so important. I'm like, but what time with family is not quality time, right? So it gets to a point that is like, let's not overthink about it, right? The reality is, if you put in quality head down work time and get it done in an hour, if the same task takes you 3 hours, then you spend 3 hours doing it regardless of how much time it took. If you could get it done in one and it's same quality, then you just saved 2 hours. I'm really excited because I'm starting to see the inklings of an effective team. And I started one thing, and I'm going to tell this to my clarity group tomorrow on Friday when we meet with your practice mastered. I'm going to tell them, hey guys, what are you guys doing to train your team? You know what we just did? We just bought a CLE year pass, a yearly pass for the CLE. And I scoured a bit for like 10 minutes. I identified legal writing as one of them, service of process as another training. And then I just put that to my team. I was like, you guys are doing these trainings. Now they have a better understanding of it, and I can see the quality of their writing improve. I get to a point I'm like, we need to know how to leverage our resources. That's really what it is.
Well, you hit the hammer on the nail when you said, as a business owner, if I can figure out what normally takes me 3 hours to do, how to either do it in one or have other people do it in one, it is even the best, right? That's called leverage. And the way that you do that is, one, you first are willing to do it. So you mature to the point as a business owner that you go, okay, now it's time. Whether the maturity comes from revenue or growth in who you are as a business owner or both. But then you have to say, okay, how am I going to educate my team? And how am I going to continue to train them and pour into them? And so what you just identified is that you had the courage, you grew to the point where you said, okay, it's time. You've brought in your first executive assistant. You've even identified that it may not be the right executive assistant, and now you're resourcing them. But now you see the benefit in the training and the systems you're building out for them to run and how they're going to be able to help you going forward. And you said, hey, in addition to this, I need to think about other ways to continue to train my team. And that's really what this entrepreneurial journey is all about. As a lawyer who owns a law firm, you're just going to continue to grow that firm. And at every growth point, you're going to have new things and new leaps of courage that you're going to have to take. And so, Yandy, I just want to say from me to you, it's so much fun watching you go through this. And I really do appreciate you showing up today and sharing where you're at currently and kind of giving everybody a glimpse as to the journey it took to get to this point. I don't know what it's going to look like a year or 2 years from now, but I absolutely invite you to come back, because I can't wait for everybody to see where you're headed next, because I know that you're going to keep knocking down these obstacles that are in your way. So someday, will you come back and share your next version of your story with us?
No problem, no problem. So check this out. You notice one thing that I think happens a lot with lawyers and this act of delegation is that I think lawyers, with the ethical rules, we're very scared to give work and then the quality work come back in a lower standard to the point that it hits our license. That's really
Yeah.
what it's about, right?
Sure.
And I think that the thing that we have to understand is that we have to have confidence in what we know is right, what we know needs to be done. I finished this summary judgment motion, and I remember thinking, like, these motions, they're very time consuming, they're very, very monolithic. There's a lot of individual pieces. And I remember thinking to myself, when I first did one, when I was like 5 years ago or something, I remember thinking to myself, wow, I don't know how a non-lawyer could ever do something like this.
Yeah.
And then I started to notice, I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this. I know what it's supposed to generally say and generally do. And then what I did was I started to train the team, and then you just regularly check and supervise and read the materials, right? It's not like I would never tell another lawyer to do this. Have the person go about, draft it, and then file it without looking at it. And I think all
Right.
lawyers know this, right? It's like the thing that happens is lawyers are so scared to have some bad thing happen to the point that they, it's what is it called? It's risk management, not risk elimination, right? You are so worried about the risk that then you don't even take the opportunity to leverage what resources are available. So lo and behold, we probably spent 40 to 50 hours on this motion. And it's a killer motion at this point. It's a really, really strong motion. It's going to be awesome. We're going to get in front of the judge, and the other side is going to have a hard time. I know it, right? Sometimes you just develop the law in such a way that it works out. Yet, if I would have sat there and done it myself, it would have taken me 50 hours. It may have taken my team in all maybe 60 hours, but it's not billed at my rate, right? Yet I think that how it looks like now is maybe 90% there. And I think it's Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. He says, if
Right.
somebody else can do 80% of the work, that's 100% freaking awesome. And it's true. If I just delegated this task and this guy saved me 30 hours of time, that's me 30-hour time that I can devote on the business or in the business doing other things. And it's mind-blowing. Now I have the result, right? Because the regular meetings, I also have a specific tool. It's called Loom. I can't tell you enough, man. If you're not using technology as a lawyer, you're going to be left behind. If a lawyer is not leveraging technology nowadays, you are the equivalent to an old person who doesn't have an email. Facts. So the thing that I'm saying is learn how to leverage that technology. Loom is something that I use. I'll give you an example. I finished a court conference today. It was a relatively simple court conference. And then I called the client. I just wanted to give them a heads up. The client didn't pick up the call. I said, okay, so should I not call them back? Should I text them? Should I email them? Those things don't have a touch. I go click on my Loom. I give them a brief 2-minute video. And I'm going to tell you the truth. There is no client who is going to fire you if you are regularly updating them, even if it's a small little thing here and there. They are going to feel that you're the one taking care of it. They definitely don't want to change you. But the number one complaint from all lawyers is we don't communicate enough with our clients. I know why now, right? When I was in law school, I was like, how can you not talk to your clients? Like, I don't understand. How do you not get back to your clients? And now I know when you're juggling 100 juggling balls and you're over here doing it's sometimes not easy to get back to your clients. But Loom has allowed me to leverage the video capturing software to be able to send data to my clients. It allows me to send videos to my team, telling them specifically, do this to this motion, do this to that motion, add this, fix this, move this, trim this, and also create nurturing materials where I know that anytime that I have an estate planning trust client or potential client or a wills and trust probate or administration, there are X, Y, and Z that I always say on calls. Guess what? Now I tell the client, hey, you need to watch this video before you get on a call with me. And the reality is, if a person doesn't want to do what you specifically tell them to do before they get on the call with you, or they're not willing to overcome a small obstacle that you put in front of them, they're not going to be good clients. So it's a good qualifier to my degree is, and then any single time that I get the person who gets on the call after watching the video, they're always like, Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now I know what you were talking about generally, and now I get it. Right? People are always going to want, oh, I want to talk to the lawyer. I want to talk to the lawyer. Well, guess what? You can talk to the lawyer when you're ready to talk to the lawyer, because I don't need to walk you through this basic thing. Let's build the foundation. I'll build you the house if we choose to work together. But do that foundation work first. Show me that you're actually committed and decisive to get it done. And then let's get it done.
I love
And
it.
P.S. Just when we thought we were done, Yandy comes roaring back with some just absolute value bombs of law firm owners need to embrace technology and leverage it. It's a great tool to train your team. And oh, by the way, you can also train your clients, and you can use it to add obstacles to identify good clients from problem clients. That was fantastic.
Absolutely excellent. It was a masterclass there, Yandy. So I appreciate that. Once again, thank you for taking the time to be here today. And to the law firm owners listening, thank you for investing your time and being here. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button depending on where you're listening or watching. Hit those bell notifications. Show Yandy some love down in the comments below. But Yandy, thank you again for being on today.